Thank you, dear. Hello, good morning, everyone. Hi, welcome. Great, so this morning we're going to be talking about healthcare. Hi. Hi. We're going to be talking about healthcare and how to make healthcare irresistible for larger groups, for the masses. Now, let me start out with myself first. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Merck Consumer Health. The term itself sounds good to the ear, but people, barely come back and ask, what do you actually do, right? And this is kind of the answer. So I help build the business, that's a must, by creating sometimes and mostly inspiring big ideas that will earn love for our brands. The past 2-3 years, I've been talking a lot about the word love and the power of love, and I do actually believe that this makes the brand much, much stronger. The sympathy, the emotional connection makes it much, much stronger, and especially when it comes to healthcare, where most of the brands feel, look, and talk the same. This is really a means of sticking out from a sea of similars. And this is what I have been also preaching internally at Merck, but also I've been luckily invited to external audiences to talk about it. And the more success we have had, the more people engaged on it, invited us. And this is how I ended up also today on stage. Now transitioning to our topic of the day, which is going to be specifically irresistible. What does that mean? So let me start out with the dictionary explanation of it. It is about a yearning, about a desire to possess. So looking at the dog here, it's the fact that she can't think about anything else but having those cookies in her mouth, right? For us now, expanding a little bit, irresistible in the brand building context. For us, irresistible means 3 things, and I'm going to double click on each of them, starting out with shared aspirations. This is very, very important to be able to go beyond the transactional, to have a meaning that is going to encourage you to become your better self, that's going to invite you to become part of a movement. The second aspect that we're going to touch upon is communication with emotions. You may be the most attractive on earth, but if you don't know how to communicate to me, I won't be able to bond with you. So this is hashtagged with brand bonding. And the third aspect that's very important is love at first sight. Think about the pharmacy environment, which is the shopping environment for most of our categories. In a sea of similars, how do you actually stick out? And unless you're the one that is the most attractive, how are you going to be matched with the brand, right? Or from the brand's perspective, with the right shopper. So this is about the couple of seconds long experience on shelf or online with the brand. So these are the 3 aspects that I'm going to touch upon. But before we go into the examples, I wanted to actually zoom out and go back maybe 4.5-5 years, and some of the provocative questions the management team have asked themselves. How healthcare, and is healthcare at all irresistible? So let's have a look at a couple of aspects belonging to it. Starting out with the most prejudice probably the average Joe would have about healthcare is that it is about popping pills, right? So you ask yourself, if you're a brand builder on a healthcare product, on a healthcare brand, can we go actually beyond popping pills, and can we add a greater meaning to this product or to this brand? Historically, healthcare has been communicated a lot via medicinal facts. So how can we go beyond those left-brained, of course very convincing, but slightly dull, same communication that has always been around? How can we be much more inspiring than those visuals that are actually making you see, I've seen it 100,000 times. Or authenticity is very, very important. How can we not be pretentious or fake as we are expressing the benefits of the brand? How can we actually desire, where there's so many comparable propositions out there, how can we create a desire that makes you choose one brand over the other? And next, love at first sight, right? Looking at this visual, ironically, it's obviously been artificially a little bit grayed out, but this is kind of the pharmacy environment that we're talking about. So in this environment, how can you become the brand that stands out, that makes the shopper or the healthcare professional fall in love with you? So I'm going to, on those three aspects, I'm going to be sharing with you also three stories of how we have made three of our global brands absolutely irresistible. We'll talk about shared aspirations, we'll talk about communication with emotions, and we'll talk about love at first sight. Let's get started with Nasivin. Nasivin is one of our global brands. It's a nasal decongestant. And thinking about the purpose, the shared aspirations, we needed to refigure out the brand and transition it, transform it from being one of the many premium, admittedly, nasal congestions to being a proposition provoking thoughts about enabling everybody to have ability to free and healthily breathe. So think about metropolitan areas, all this pollution, and the respiratory infections that those bring with them. As it relates to how do we bond now with consumers, we had to find and tap into a universal insight that moves and touches millions of people. I see people start to smile. So indeed, men whine significantly more than women when they have a cold. Can people relate to this? Both genders, right? So this indeed was a great hit. It was a gift that kept on giving and giving. So I'll start showing you an example from Africa, indeed South Africa, with a piece of copy that went on air on conventional media, but also was very, very successful on digital. Enjoy.
Illiaden not only gives you fast relief from a blocked nose, but also cuts the duration by up to 2 days. Ha! And both you're suffering 2 days sooner with Illiaden.
Okay, great. So, thank you. By the way, Illiaden is the local brand in South Africa. That's the same brand basically globally that I've just called out as Nasivin. I'll show you another example of how we have actually stimulated the viral potential of the proposition online. So we had smaller, shorter movies because people's attention span does not go beyond 7 to 8 seconds that picked up the same topic and made fun basically of the situation and the tension at home at different occasions. Have a look at it. Okay, super. So after 4 years, we also at Merck still laugh about this a lot. So the third aspect, moving into love at first sight, right? I want to show you the contrast before and after. So 4.5 years ago, we were looking at an obvious proposition with, I would say also with inconsistency around the world, versus we transitioned it to a proposition that's much more premium, that you would say is luscious, is almost a beauty accessory that women would like to take with them to work or to meeting whomever, and disrupting the category completely. So ticking off these 3 boxes, this is the recipe for making the brand irresistible from where it was a couple of years ago. I would like to share with you how we measure success. So leaving aside the shipments and shares, for us, very, very importantly, to make sure that the brand image sits and goes in the direction where it's supposed to go. Let me try and point here. So we look at image tracking, we call it the love brand path. The x-axis is the brand love, and the y-axis is brand respect. And very importantly, the size of the squares, and you'll see the size of the heart, is the commitment of consumers or the professionals that we're tracking. So this is the example from South Africa. I'm going to show you now we started out from in a good place, and we made it more than 3 times bigger, the commitment, which has also translated to fantastic results. We have grown more than 50% over the last 3 years only. Another example will be from India, where we have tapped into the exact same proposition, and by and large, I would say 95% of what you have seen has been also implemented with a skew to the local cultural aspect, starting with the casting. And there also, we have grown significantly, overtaking back then a giant Otrivin, and growing the brand about 30% over the past 2 years, which we feel very good about. The next proposition is going to be 7Cs. Many of you may have heard about the brand. It's around for more than 80 years. It's our, we call it liquid vitamin brand, and it's a global brand. It's across geographies. And it used to also be one of the many that are out there. So one of the many omega-3 products that are in pharmacies, but also in retail and in supermarkets, so accessible in the meantime, and you just do not know where's the differentiation, what actually makes you choose one brand over the other, right? So here we had to rethink the category to elevate the entire brand, and with that also give stimulus to people to challenge themselves, challenge the society, and help the people stay younger at heart for much longer, for them to do what their heart is beating for at a higher age and make basically age obsolete. So this being the shared aspiration, we needed again an insight that I'm going to share with you. In my own words, as you age, your heart beats for moments spent with those that matter the most to you, spent with your loved ones. Can you guys relate to this insight? So next, I'm going to show you an example of how we tapped into this insight and turned it into a winning proposition, winning the hearts of consumers, healthcare professionals, and shipping like mad. So this is Saudi Arabia, and please pay attention also to the cultural codes of what you're allowed to show, what not, and we'll talk about the results behind it.
As you wake up to a new day, let me ask you this. What is your heart beating for? Is it beating for the future? Or is it beating for this moment, here and now? I am no fortune teller. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. But I do know one thing. I know my heart. I know it beats for them. I know it beats for this moment. And this moment will last me a lifetime.
Great. So this proposition was one of the many movies that went out there on the internet and then engaged immensely with Saudi Arabian consumers. And let me, before we come to the results, talk about actually the look and feel, the love at first sight aspect. So this is how 7Cs used to look like, is one of the many out there. And we have re-engineered the brand to become a premium healthcare proposition that obviously has a much higher value connotation and completely sticks out on shelf or online from its competition. The same approach again here, we'll look at how we're moving in terms of the image versus feisty competition here, Centrum and Pharmaton, as well as a local brand, where we have pushed ourselves significantly to the upper right-hand side, gaining the love, but also the respect of consumers. And in terms of the sales results, alone the past 3 years, 7Cs has picked up by more than 60%, which obviously is a great result. My third example is going to be from Nerve Care, from Neurobion. It is one of our bigger brands in the portfolio. It is, again, a global, so the footprint is across the geographies from Indonesia to Chile, all around the world. And here, the heritage of the brand has been that it is in this category of nerve care. What does it mean? It's about nerve issues. And if you talk to the average Joe about a nerve issue, what would they be thinking about, right? It's problematic. It has a little bit of a scare factor. Take it to whichever direction you want, right? Nobody wants to be really connected with it. And do you want to own a brand? Do you want to build a brand with this kind of a scare factor to it where people have a distance to it? Probably not, right? This is in the corner of a medication rather than a lifestyle choice that improves your quality of life. So instead of hovering around in this problematic area, we have refigured out, rethought the brand to making the underdog, the working class, an absolute hero, a true hero, and celebrate them across the nation. Actually, this is an example from India. If you wanted to communicate in an emotional way, in a way that bonds with consumers, in the context of celebrating the underdog, the insight has been, it's the hardworking, it's the less privileged of the nation that are often forgotten. They're not being recognized or being celebrated. And this has been a big hit in a lot of the underdeveloped or developing countries, where I'm going to show you now one of our viral movies from India. Again, a guy that you would not have thought is doing such great things, right? If you double click on it, you hear the story from Jalaluddin from India. And I'll tell you a little bit about what it did to the brand and which audiences it has reached.
मैं टैक्सी ड्राइवर गाजी जलालुद्दीन। अपना जिंदगी हमने खुद बनाया। रास्ता में भीख मांगा, हाथ रिक्शा चलाया, बड़ा होके टैक्सी चलाना भी सीखा। एक ही इच्छा था, स्कूल जाके पढ़ने का। तो वो तो पूरा नहीं हुआ, पर सोचा कि मेरे जैसा जिंदगी किसी का नहीं होना चाहिए। जिस दिन से कमाना शुरू किया, उस दिन से आज तक एक एक पैसा कमा के हमने सुंदरबन में स्कूल खोला, 400 लोगों को ड्राइविंग सिखाया। एक ही हिसाब मांगा, सुंदरबन में स्कूल बनाने में सब ड्राइवर लोग हमारा मदद करेगा। और आज एक नहीं 2 स्कूल खोला हमने सुंदरबन में। अपना फैमिली को संभाला, अपना बेटा लोगों को तो पढ़ाया और सुंदरबन का सब बच्चा लोग को भी पढ़ाया, ताकि फिर कोई बच्चा भीख मांगने पे मजबूर ना हो जाए। एक सपना और है, कॉलेज बनाने, और वो मेरा बेटा जरूर पूरा करेगा। मैं जलालुद्दीन गाजी इंडिया से इलिटरेसी को मिटाना चाहता हूं।
Indeed, it's very touching, and I've seen a couple of you getting really emotional about it. There are thousands of stories out there in India, right? And Neurobion has been the brand to pick those stories and to actually give a platform to people to nominate their own true heroes, being your grandma that brought you up and made some sacrifices for the better of the next generation. I picked here just one example, one channel, Twitter, where the campaign has gotten a big boost by reaching out to 50 million people alone in Twitter in 2017. And in terms of the engagement, we look always in the like versus share ratio. It has been 3:1 versus 10:1, which is the industry standard. And 2017, we believe to have reached 300 million Indians and engage them on this topic of looking out there and actually identifying for yourself who may be that person that has not been recognized despite their great efforts to help others to do good to the society. The third element here, love at first sight, is equally important for Neurobion. As you think about the background, that this is almost in this medicinal area with nerve issues, the look and feel of the product connoted exactly the same. So the identity, if there was one, it's not really there. There's not consistency, not in one country, but also if you look at the different propositions around the world, they all looked a little bit different. You could hardly recognize that it's the same proposition to correctly attribute if you have seen something to the brand. We have also here redesigned the brand entirely, making it a very premium, I find it also elegant nerve care proposition that actually becomes the pioneer for this newly established category of nerve care. With a new bold design element of the N here, jokingly I say this is the C for Chanel, it's the N for Neurobion, jokingly. It's N for Neurobion and nerve care. And we're very, very proud about it, and we believe that it has contributed immensely to the image turning around, starting out with India. So again, the same game right here. You see that the brand used to be in this area, which is in the middle of nowhere, right? Neither it's being loved nor being respected, and it is begging for attention amongst the very many that are hovering in the same area. And after a 2-year period, 2.5, 3-year period of time, it has completely broken away from the crowd. And alone the past 2 years in India, Neurobion has grown by almost 40%. I see colleagues from Ogilvy. Thank you very, very much for your partnership. And not only that, right? We have here picked a couple of the countries that we believe are important enough to do research, to do market research and tracking of the brand image. So you see here Indonesia as an example from Southeast Asia, Mexico and Brazil with similar situations. Either we have significantly moved forward towards becoming a love brand, or we have significantly increased the commitment of consumers in this case, but also healthcare professionals. Those were the 3 examples that I wanted, the 3 stories that I wanted to share with you. Hope to have been able to stimulate you in the right way. As a recap, as a summary of the session, irresistible means the first aspect, shared aspiration, the brand's purpose. It needs to evoke, it needs to touch you in a way that you will want to do better things. You will want to be your best self. You will want to be part of a movement out there. Very important. Secondly, the brand bonding. There has to be a big idea that allows for this conversation. So even if you look great, if you're not communicating in the right way, you don't bond with consumers. And thirdly, love at first sight. So these are the seductive products that allow you to stand out and that allow you to make the best out of those first couple of seconds of experience. And that is your chance. People have such little attention span. That is the chance where you need to stick out and be a match with the right shopper. So that was the summary. Thank you very, very much for being a great audience. I know this is a one-way show here, but I'm going to be backstage, so please come by and we'll have a chat if you have any questions. Thank you. Thanks a lot.